A young man leans against Jesus' chest at the Last Supper. He is close enough to hear the heartbeat of God. The others ask questions, debate who is greatest, wonder what lies ahead. This one simply rests in nearness. His name is John, and he will later identify himself only as the disciple whom Jesus loved, not from pride but from wonder that he had been loved at all. This same man will stand at the foot of the cross when all others have fled. He will receive Christ's mother as his own, and decades later, as an old man with trembling hands, he will write words that will echo through eternity. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And the Word became flesh, and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory. John occupied a position unlike any other in the history of Revelation. The prophets had seen from afar, their visions wrapped in symbols and shadows. Those who would believe in later centuries would come to faith through testimony passed down across generations. But John was there. He walked with Christ on dusty roads beneath the Galilean sun. He ate with him, breaking bread at ordinary tables. He heard his voice not thundering from Sinai, not speaking through angelic messengers, but in conversation, in laughter, in prayer. He saw miracles unfold before his physical eyes, water becoming wine, the blind receiving sight, the dead rising from their tombs. Years later, when John composed his first letter, he opened with words that still carry the weight of direct experience. That which was from the beginning, which we have heard, which we have seen with our eyes, which we have looked upon and touched with our hands, concerning the word of life, the life was made manifest, and we have seen it and testify to it. This is not theological abstraction. This is a man saying, I heard God speak. I watched God eat bread and fish. I touched God's wounds. The eternal Word that was with the Father. From before all time I knew him. He was my friend. Yet physical proximity alone does not explain John's witness. Many saw Jesus walk the roads of Palestine. Thousands heard him teach. But John saw through the flesh to the glory within. The other Gospels record events with faithful precision where Jesus went, what he said, whom he healed. John penetrates to meaning. He tells us not merely what Jesus did, but who Jesus is. His Gospel opens not in Bethlehem with shepherds and angels, not in Nazareth with the quiet of hidden years. It opens in eternity itself. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. Before John describes anything Jesus said or did, he establishes the staggering reality of who was speaking and acting. The baby Mary held to her breast, the man who grew weary and sat by a well in Samaria, the friend who wept at Lazarus' tomb. This was the one through whom all things were made, the eternal Logos, the Word who was God. The early church recognized John's unique perspective and gave him a symbol that set him apart from the other evangelists. Matthew received the man, for he begins with Christ's human genealogy. Mark received the lion, for he emphasizes Christ's royal power. Luke received the ox, for he highlights Christ's sacrificial priesthood. But John received the eagle, the creature that soars highest, that alone can gaze directly at the sun without being blinded. While Matthew, Mark, and Luke walked the ground of Christ's earthly ministry, John rose to contemplate the eternal Word within the human flesh. His gospel does not contradict theirs. It completes them, revealing the divine depths beneath the human surface. The patristic tradition, from Irenaeus of Lyon to Augustine of Hippo, celebrated John as the theologian, not because he engaged in abstract speculation, but because he had seen. His theology was born from intimacy. His contemplation was grounded in touch. Throughout his gospel, John refers to himself in a way that has puzzled readers for 2,000 years. He never uses his own name. Instead, he identifies himself simply as the disciple whom Jesus loved. The phrase appears at the Last Supper, where this disciple leans against Jesus' breast. It appears at the cross, where Jesus entrusts his mother to this disciple's care. It appears at the empty tomb, where this disciple outruns Peter but waits for him to enter first. It appears on the shore of Galilee, where this disciple recognizes the risen Lord before the others. Why this strange anonymity? Why not simply write, I, John, was there. The answer lies not in false modesty, but in transformed identity. John does not mean that Jesus loved him more than the others. He means that being loved had become the defining truth of his existence. He had discovered who he was in the light of Christ's love. Whatever else, he might be called fisherman, apostle, evangelist, elder, none of it mattered compared to this one reality. He was beloved. This is the fruit of true contemplation. Those who draw near to Christ do not come away impressed primarily with their own achievements or gifts. They come away overwhelmed by being loved. John leaned on Christ's breast at that final meal and discovered that the heartbeat of God was love. Love for him, love for the world, love that would pour itself out unto death. From this identity flowed his theology. God is love, he wrote in his first letter, perhaps the simplest and most profound sentence in all of Scripture. He knew it not as philosophical conclusion reached through argument. He knew it as lived experience. He had felt that love in embrace. He had seen it stretched upon the cross. He had encountered it, risen from the dead. The Gospels tell us that when the soldiers came to arrest Jesus in Gethsemane, the disciples fled in terror. Peter followed at a distance, only to deny knowing Christ 3 times before the rooster crowed. But one disciple found his way to Golgotha. John stood at the foot of the cross. He watched the nails driven through those hands that had touched him in blessing. He heard the labored breathing, the words of forgiveness, the cry of abandonment. He witnessed the moment when blood and water flowed from the pierced side, and he was there when those eyes, which had looked upon him with such love, closed in death. It was in that darkest hour that Jesus looked down and saw his mother and the disciple he loved standing together. "Woman, behold your son," he said to Mary. Then to John, "Behold your mother." In the midst of his agony, the Lord was creating a new family. He was entrusting his most precious treasures to each other's care. From that day, tradition tells us, John took Mary into his own home. He cared for the Mother of God until her assumption into heaven. What did those years of intimacy with Mary add to his understanding of the Word made flesh? What stories did she tell him of the Annunciation, of the hidden years in Nazareth, of the first miracle at Cana, where she had prompted her son to act? We can only wonder at the depths of knowledge passed between them. John was among the first to the empty tomb on Easter morning. The Gospel bearing his name tells us that he saw the burial cloths lying empty, undisturbed, and he saw and believed, faith igniting instantly at the evidence of resurrection. He encountered the risen Christ in the upper room, touched his wounds, ate with him on the shore of Galilee. It was there, on that Galilean beach, that Jesus restored Peter and then spoke mysteriously of John's future. "If I want him to remain until I come, what is that to you?" The saying spread among the early Christians that John would not die. John himself corrects this in his Gospel. Jesus did not say he would not die, only, "If I want him to remain," and remain he did. John outlived all the other apostles. Tradition places him in Ephesus in his final years, surrounded by a community of disciples, the last living voice that could say with authority, "I walked with him. I touched him. I saw his glory with my own eyes." John's contemplative witness reveals something essential about the nature of Christian mysticism. The highest mysticism is not escape from the material world, but deeper penetration into its sacred depths. The Word became flesh. This is the foundation of everything. Christian contemplation does not seek God by leaving creation behind, by ascending to some purely spiritual realm untouched by matter. It seeks to perceive the divine presence within creation, supremely in the Incarnation itself, and derivatively in all that Christ has touched and transformed. John's seeing was both physical and spiritual, both historical and eternal. He saw a man, he perceived the Word, he heard a voice, he recognized the one who was from the beginning. He touched flesh, he encountered the source of all life. This unity of sense and spirit, time and eternity, is the model for all Christian contemplation. The Church places John's feast on December 27th within the octave of Christmas, because he saw most deeply what Christmas means. The birth in Bethlehem was not merely the arrival of a prophet or teacher or miracle worker. It was the eternal Word making his dwelling among us. The infinite became infant. The Creator entered creation, and John witnessed it. John understood it. John testified to it, so that all who would come after might believe. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed, Jesus told Thomas after the resurrection. But he said it in John's Gospel, recorded by the one who had seen, for the sake of those who could not. John wrote, so that we who were born too late to walk the roads of Galilee might still see, through his eyes, the glory of the Word made flesh. His testimony bridges the centuries. His contemplation becomes ours. We cannot lean against Christ's breast as John did at that final supper. We cannot stand at the foot of the cross and receive Mary into our homes. But we can enter into the same gaze that John practiced, contemplation of the Incarnation, that transforms not through escape from the world, but through ever deeper entry into its mystery. The Word became flesh. He dwelt among us, and through John's witness, we too have seen his glory, glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth.